let's go to the disappearance for this week. Kristen, you'll be glad to know that Unfound is taking everybody to the state of Virginia on Friday. Technically, not the state of West Virginia, but West Virginia, little w, capital V, West Virginia, not the state West Virginia. We're taking you to Hazel Mountain, Virginia, with the disappearance of Rodney Kiser. This is a disappearance that happened on April 26th, 1990. And the interview will be with his niece, Marlene Gullett. Now, I had mentioned maybe last week or the week before that these last few weeks, or the upcoming weeks, at least at the time, were going to be with interviews with people who I had been in contact with for quite a while, and suddenly we were able to make things happen. Of course, that happened with John Polos, and then last week with Joanne and Shirley, and now this week with Marlene. I think Marlene and I spoke once back in 2018, maybe even earlier than that, and just couldn't make anything happen. I really don't remember what the circumstances were that we didn't get together, but then just happened to contact each other again. I think maybe it was through, I forget exactly how it happened, but Marlene and I started talking again. And we will be covering the disappearance of her uncle, Rodney, who disappeared. He was 32 years old at the time. And it is an episode I am calling Playing with Fire. Because even though I think Rodney was a good guy, it doesn't sound like he was into drugs, didn't have a criminal record, but he was making a few decisions in his private life that could have led to his disappearance. Ultimately, it will be for you to decide what you think happened to him. But the general facts is on the evening of April 26th, 1990, his family kind of just lived in this, like within a half mile of each other in this little place of Hazel Mountain. And it was actually Marlene's mother who saw Rodney drive by in his truck. Didn't know where he was going, no big deal. But then he went missing. And when his girlfriend, whose name is Veronica, was contacted later, when he didn't show up, he ran this country store and he wasn't there the next day to open it up, and people start wondering what's going on. His girlfriend said that he was driving to see his brother, who lived on the entire opposite end of Virginia in Alexandria, Virginia. Well, the brother said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I had no plans to see him. I didn't know he was coming to see me. That's all news to me. Well, what you should know about Veronica is that even though she and Rodney were living together at the time, she was still married. And on top of that, before they even became a couple, Rodney had a run-in with her father, in which he allegedly, there were no witnesses to this, but Rodney said it happened, where Charlie, Veronica's father, shot the tires out on Rodney's truck. And then this was the woman that he decided to start dating and then live with. And then on top of that, she ended up having a child. And on the birth certificate, she was not sure who the father was. She listed her husband at the time. She listed Rodney at the time. And she listed some other guy who could have been a possibility. So it seems that she wasn't just, and it seems like her husband knew. I mean, she wasn't living at home anymore. She was living with Rodney. So it seems that she wasn't just being with Rodney or cheating on her husband. It seems that she was cheating on Rodney too. So you can see, I think, why I am calling this episode Playing with Fire. When you start dating women who are married and you start dating women whose fathers hate you, and you start dating women who are with multiple guys and everything, it could be a recipe for disaster. And that's why I'm calling it Playing with Fire. However, that doesn't mean that any of that had anything to do with this disappearance. Now, the other unique maybe the most unique part about Rodney's disappearance is, for once, we're going to get to talk a little bit about forensics, because his truck was found eventually just right down the road, nowhere near Alexandria, Virginia. And it was at this trailer that he owned that he was trying to fix up. He wasn't living there at the time, but inside the trailer, there were blood drops that people believe to be Rodney's. That would make a lot of sense, being that it was his trailer. But the problem was that, of course, at the time, DNA wasn't a thing yet. And when they did try to test the DNA, the blood later, when DNA became a science, it was too degraded. But it was B positive, and it very possibly could be Rodney's blood. So we have at least, we don't talk about blood much on Unfound because we really don't talk about forensics. We usually don't have them. But this Friday, you will hear about that, and you'll have to judge for yourself. It wasn't like a big puddle of blood, just splotches here and there, and you'll have to decide for yourself what that means. Renee says there's a petition to sign to help get her case seen. Please sign if possible. You mean Emma's, Renee? Is that who you mean, Emma's? I'm guessing that's what you mean. But that is the disappearance for this Friday. Rodney Kiser, a guy who was a former sheriff's deputy, and he was running a small country store at the time of his disappearance. Once again, he disappeared from Hazel Mountain, Virginia, April 26th, 1990. The guest will be his niece, Marlene Gullett. She is in the discussion group. And the episode is called Playing with Fire. So that's all I have for tonight. Covered a lot of stuff. First and foremost, I gave a shout out to JoJo, who does who keeps a notebook on all Unfound's cases. So I guess that means this Friday he'll be writing in his notebook about Rodney Kiser. We talked about the camel and where that comes from. We talked about Cameron Remmer and this guy. There's still no information on whether this guy in San Francisco is Cameron or not. Talked about the newsletter. Talked about On the Ground. Next one's probably going to be June 15th. Talked about Dal Phillips. Talked about Enrique Roman Martinez. Talked about the Suzanne Morphew disappearance. Took a bunch of great questions tonight from you in the group watching, and then from the group. And then finally, as always, we talked about this coming Friday's disappearance, the disappearance of Rodney Kiser. Pamela says, I was wrong about Cheryl Coker's husband. He was named a suspect, but not charged. Her family is seeking justice. Okay. We're always ready to cover any disappearances that you send us at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Like I said, though, I just want to make sure that you just aren't sending a huge list. These are the case. Stick to a couple. And if you have any contact information, please include it. Okay? That's what I would recommend. Don't send us a list of 20. Send 2 with contact information. That'll make it very probable that we will feature that disappearance sometime in the future. Once again, before you go, please like this video, this show that you're watching, that you've watched tonight. Please give this a like, a thumbs up. And anything else. If you're not subscribed to the Unfound Podcast channel yet, please do. Of course, you'll get automatic alerts when we post new videos. In fact, I'm thinking about doing a video for Rodney Kiser's disappearance. I haven't decided upon that yet, but if I do, you'll know. And I will see you later. You'll hear me on Friday. But good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Hope you always enjoy these Wednesday nights. I truly, of course, enjoy them, getting to talk to all of you. And I enjoy doing the show. An hour and 45 minutes tonight. So have a great night. Take care out there. Be safe. Good night.